And good evening, everybody, and welcome here as we get ready for knockout qualifying, beginning our second round of the Season 2 Hersheys Cup Series chase for the championship. We are here tonight getting ready for knockout qualifying for chase race number 4 at Armory Digital Super Speedway. And we got a couple cars that are already off track, a couple of rookies, Zachary Stoltz from Fire Ice Racing, Matthew Dallio from Srigley Motorsports. We'll jump to them. Last week was an elimination race, and I don't know why I have the racing line on. Sorry about that. Let me turn that off real quickly here. But we had an elimination race last week at Indianapolis where the 16 drivers that started out their journey in the chase for the championship has now been lessened to 12. 4 drivers eliminated last week, including Leon Alvarise, Brandon Gonzales, Levi McIntire, and William Brock. So there are only 12 drivers left. 2 drivers come into this race tied for the number 1 seed because of win they got in round 1. Chicagoland's winner Grayson Acevedo and last week's winner in Indianapolis, Benjamin Miles. So they'll have a 3-point advantage over everyone else. You saw how Matthew Dallio very quickly caught up to Zachary Stoltz and passed him. That just shows you the importance of the draft here at Armory. I don't know if Stoltz checked up a little because of Shaun Gallighan merging on the track, but I think it's more just the fact that Matthew Dallio had the draft and was able to slingshot. And the first official lap time laid down will be 216 miles per hour, 216.632 for Matthew Dallio. That is a very, very good first lap. Aaron Henderson with a 214 mile per hour lap time, but with the long amount of draft that Matthew Dallio got pays off right there. Keith Batson just jumped to the top of the leaderboard now, though, with a 217.7. Been a while since we've seen Keith Batson in a points-paying race. It's been close, but close doesn't cut it, unfortunately. When it comes down to mere miles per hour, mere seconds, depends on how you're scoring it. Elijah Gordon jumps up to the second position now, the 216.8. Matthew Dallio did not improve on his lap time. Jump back, see if we can find Keith Batson in the 73 car. Some more cars coming off pit road. There's Batson, side by side with fellow Ford Fusion Dillon Young. So due to the fact that those 4 drivers, as mentioned, Levi McIntire, William Brock, Leon Alvarise, and Brandon Gonzales did not make it into the next round of the chase for the championship, they are running without the white banners, white splitters, and one of them is actually just back here. There he is. Levi McIntire now going to be running the Avengers paint scheme for the remainder of the season. As you can see, there is no white spoiler, no white splitter, no white driver banner, as he's going to get passed right now by our previous race winner last week, Benjamin Miles. Right now is third on the charts behind the white deuce of Dillon Young, who, look at that lap time, 226 miles per hour. There is Leon Alvarise. His first chase, and I believe it's his first chase. I don't remember if he was in the chase last season or not. I know he was a winner last season, but it seems to me he didn't make the chase, but I might be wrong. But now back to his normal colors. William Brock. I don't know if William Brock's in this field or not. No, he is not. Brandon Gonzales is. There he is. Right now 19th fastest, battling side by side with chaser Jessica Shelton. Right now he is 21st fastest on the charts, though. As it's looking like Dillon Young's going to have the fastest lap here in this session. There's the 226.328. Nobody else has come close. 2 miles per hour off is Keith Batson, then Levi McIntire, Kyle Mathews, Jon Gilbert, then Carson Scott, Benjamin Miles, Austin Mongold, Elijah Gordon, O'Neal Baldwin, Aaron Henderson, and right now Anthony McCrury holds the final transfer spot in the next round. And as soon as I say that, I believe he just jumped up and stuck O'Neal Balvin in that spot. Yes, McCrury up to 10th, Miles up to 5th, Qualls up to 8th. So some drivers jumping up there, and that puts Elijah Gordon now in the bubble spot. O'Neal Balvin and Aaron Henderson right now have been eliminated from moving on to the next round. And Elijah Gordon just jumped up, so now Stephanie Gardner put in the 12th position. Gordon just jumped up to 2nd place, 224.047. So now Stephanie Gardner in the perilous position of 12th. And Dillon Young is no longer being scored, so that will mean that's it. That's the 12 drivers that will move on to the next round. Stephanie Gardner will get the final transfer spot into round 2 of qualifying. Everyone behind Dillon Young in the 2 car with a 226.328. Session will come to a close now. And here's the drivers that will move on to the next round of qualifying. Dillon Young, Elijah Gordon, Keith Batson, Levi McIntire, a couple of chasers, Kyle Mathews, Benjamin Miles, as well as Carson Scott. Jon Gilbert will make his way in, along with James Qualls, Austin Mongold, another chaser in Anthony McCrury, and rookie Stephanie Gardner. In terms of go or go home drivers, that is a total of, I believe, 6 go or go home drivers. Gordon, Batson, Gilbert, Qualls, Mongold, and Gardner. So with 6 moving on to the next round, if we have more than one go or go home driver make his way or her way into the next round of qualifying from our second heat, there will be drivers that will move on to round 2 but still will be going home. The likelihood is very great that we will have at least 2 go or go home drivers make their way into the next round of qualifying in heat 2, so we can pretty safely say that the drivers that have failed to make the race at this point would include O'Neal Balvin, Aaron Henderson, Seth Cole, also Matthew Dallio, Zachary Stoltz, Garrett Sidner. Those drivers will fail to make the race. Zachary Fitzwater way down there, 32nd place for that chaser, so that's not going to be a good starting position for him. We'll have to see what he'll be able to do. Of course, this is a kind of a restrictor plate track, so maybe track position isn't as important as if it were at a road course or something, but we will see. Nonetheless, it'll be Dillon Young, Elijah Gordon, Keith Batson, Levi McIntire, Kyle Mathews, Benjamin Miles, Jon Gilbert, Carson Scott, James Qualls, Austin Mongold, Anthony McCrury, and Stephanie Gardner moving on to the next round of qualifying. Let's find out who's going to join them from heat number 2 in round number 2 of qualifying. Coverage continues in just a moment. So we'll get ready here for the second heat of our first round of qualifying. A couple of drivers already coming off pit road. I'm trying to make out who that is. I think that might be, yes it is, Pichu London in the 29. Pichu London made his first start a couple of weeks ago back at Chicagoland. Rocco Twyman, Noah Carr is coming off pit road as well. There's Emmanuel Hartnett. But since his debut at Chicagoland, Pichu London has yet to make another race. Maybe he can do it here tonight at Armory Digital. The one thing these drivers have to do, and I saw a lot of them do it in the first heat, is they've got to come off pit road either with or merge with a big group of race cars, because it's the draft laps that definitely secured drivers an opportunity of moving into the next round of qualifying. I mean, there's no doubt about it that Dillon Young's 226 mile per hour lap time was definitely a draft lap. Most of the drivers' single car runs, if we go back to our first heat, their single car runs was somewhere around 212 to possibly 216 miles per hour single car. So that extra 10 miles per hour that Dillon Young was able to gain, there's no doubt about it that was draft. There's a couple of cars up ahead of Pichu London that seem to have that idea. A couple of teammates, John Cittadino, Marie Monobe, and they've got the Joanna Atwood Motorsports car of Johnny Gardner right between the two of them. So these guys, they'll be able to probably get themselves a pretty decent lap time. Maybe Pichu London can join up and merge with these cars. There you see right there, 210 miles per hour the first lap from Pichu London, and that is a single car run. So there's no doubt about it that Dillon Young and that team, they may have a strong car, but it was definitely the draft that helped them lay down that 226 in the first heat. Rocco Twyman, Noah Cars, we saw the two of them come off pit road together Together, they were able to get 211 mile-per-hour lap times. Actually, identical lap times for the both of them, 211.063. James Richardson, 211.015. I would watch up here, Marie Monobe, Jon Cittadino, that group. There you go. Just as I suspected, they are top of the leaderboard. Ran in that single file train, 2:18 for Monobe, who was pretty much the caboose on that trio for most of the lap. Jon Cittadino, who was the engine, 2:16, and the guy in the middle, Johnny Gardner, 2:15, as Joe Rockingham jumps up to second with a 217 mile-per-hour lap time. Charles Sanford just crossed the line, 214 miles per hour. He's in 6th. Daniel Olson in 7th. And there's a pretty good group right up here ahead of these guys. Daniel Olson's a part of that, along with John Arndt, Holden Gluba, and Trapantacchio Vernio, but none of them have jumped up to the top of the leaderboard. Vernio 5th, Olson in 4th, and the two Fire Ice Racing cars, they are still top of the leaderboard, 220 miles per hour for Marie Monobe, 219 for Jon Cittadino and Johnny Gardner there as well. And Joe Rockingham seems to always be that one little guy that jumps up there and breaks those three up that are working together. Let's see who Rockingham's working with. It's Daniel Olson. I don't know if maybe there's something amiss on his car or not. Okay, so Joe Rockingham's been able to work now into the group with Marty Johnson, Emmanuel Hartnett, William Brock, and Zach Rogers. So we could see some speed out of this group to work their way up into the top 12. Right now, out of this group, the only two drivers right now running inside the top 12, 4th place Joe Rockingham and Emmanuel Hartnett in 10th. Let's see if the 20, 15, or 39 jump up into the top 10 here. And 39, top of the leaderboard. The 15, second. Hartnett up to 3rd. So there you go. This group definitely producing some speed. All three of those drivers running 221 mile per hour lap times that time by. But where did it put Marty Johnson, the lone man out of this group? He is 26th fastest. So apparently he was doing most of the wind cutting for these guys. And he's caught up there on the high side there too. It's not going to give him a whole lot of draft. And Jon Cittadino, Marie Monobe, they said not so fast. We can produce speed of our own. And they must have caught up this tail end of John Arndt and John Andrews, because they are up at the top of the leaderboard again. 222 mile per hour. A 5.18 for Cittadino, a 3.97 for Marie Monobe. They had an answer to that challenge, apparently. As right now, those two are top two. Cittadino the fastest, Monobe in 2nd. Let's see if their lap times improve this time. No, they do not. However, this second group's did. But not enough to be able to take the top of the leaderboard. Right now it's Cittadino, Monobe, Zach Rogers, John Andrews, William Brock, John Arndt, Emmanuel Hartnett. Marty Johnson just jumped up to 4th. Holden Gluba's in there, along with Joe Rockingham, Joshua Michaels, and right now Dougie Shears holds the final transfer position. There he is, running with Nathan Hudson and Cole Baker. Let's see if these guys are getting scored anymore, and no, they are not, which means it's over. The session's complete, and Dougie Shears will get the final transfer spot into the next round of qualifying. And the question of would more than one go-home driver move into the next round, well, that answer was very quickly answered. Right now, even just quickly looking, I see about 7, maybe 8 drivers that are go-homers moving on to the next round from this round of qualifying. Jon Cittadino, top of the leaderboard here in this session, followed by his teammate Marie Monobe, Zach Rogers, Marty Johnson, John Andrews. So go-homers clinch all of the top 5 speeds here in the first heat. Then you got William Brock there, who just was recently eliminated from the chase. He'll be 6th fastest. John Arndt, 7th. Emmanuel Hartnett in 8th. Holden Gluba, our winner from a couple of weeks ago, in 9th. 10th place, Joe Rockingham. Then it'll be Joshua Michaels and Dougie Shears, the final drivers to move on to the next round of qualifying. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, indeed, it is 8 drivers moving on to the next round, and we had 6 move in from the first heat, which means there will be 14 drivers battling for 7 available spots in the starting lineup of this week's race. So officially, drivers that will miss the race include Trapantacchio Vernio, Davey Johnson, Johnny Gardner, Jason Haywood, Daniel Olson, Noah Kars, Rocco Twyman, Pichu London, James McLeod, and Kyle Keith. So all those drivers will fail to make the main event here this week. So we're going to have 24 drivers move on to the next round of qualifying. 14 of them are go or go home drivers, and only 7 of them will move on to the main event. Only 12 will move on to the third and final round of qualifying with a chance to start on the pole or the front row of this race. Who will it be? We'll find out in a moment. Coverage continues here from Armory Digital in just a moment. Alright, so round 2, a critical round 2, because this is going to be very interesting with 14 go or go homers moving into this next round. I would not be the least bit surprised if we see it go to round 3 before we know who officially of the go or go home drivers is actually going to be making the race. But I'll tell you what, one team I've been really impressed with the last couple of weeks has been this team. Jon Arndt, as well as his teammate Carson Scott of AS Racing, their qualifying program has really stepped up. Of course, Carson Scott surviving to move into the next round of the chase for the championship, but his teammate Jon R has really stepped it up as far as his starting positions too. This team has really found a lot of speed in the last few weeks. Of course, next season they'll be moving to technically a 4-car team, bringing Johnny Gardner over, as well as a debuting rookie. We're not going to be giving too much information out yet for Season 3. But there will be a debuting rookie who will be not only driving for AS Racing, but getting some technical, mechanical equipment as well over from CJ Racing. A lot of stuff in the works for Season 3 that's been going on. If you want to find out about it, you can head on over to the NNSCRA Enter 2003 and Gaming Facebook page. A lot of stuff over there. As Jon Arndt will get ready to lay down the first official lap time of the second round, and it's a 208.710. Out of the Chasers, let's see who's moved into this round for the Chasers. Kyle Mathews, Benjamin Miles, Carson Scott, Anthony McCrury, and I believe that's it. It is. So there's only 4 Chasers that moved into this second round. As Jon Gilbert is now top of the leaderboard. There he is. Dillon Young, who was the fastest in the second heat, running just behind him. There's Keith Batson coming out on track. He's one of the go-or-go homers in this field, as is Gilbert. John Andrews, a go-or-go homer right now, top of the leaderboard, 212.699. John Cittadino, actually, I'm sorry, Dillon Young was actually the fastest in the first heat of the first round. John Cittadino was the fastest in the second heat. Got the 2 heats confused there. Zach Rogers, top of the leaderboard. He and I believe William Brock working together here, along with the 82 of Stephanie Gardner. Right now, Rogers, Brock, they are 1 and 2 on the speed charts, but as soon as I say that, John Andrews back to top of the leaderboard with a 215.291. John Cittadino was the fastest in the second heat of the first round. He's now up to third fastest, 214.792. And right now, as things stand, it would be John Andrews, Zach Rogers, John Cittadino, Stephanie Gardner jumps to the top of the leaderboard, so add her to the list. Jon Gilbert, Holden Gluba, and Elijah Gordon, who would move on to the next round. But you've got a couple of other go-go homers like Marie Monobe and Austin Mongold, who are also up inside the top 12. So if those drivers make it into the next round of qualifying, like I said, that's 9 drivers that would be still battling for 7 spots, even in the third and final round of qualifying. So we're not still going to know, I don't think, unless we have only 7 drivers make their way in the top 12 in speeds here in this session. We will still not know who officially is going to be making the race as far as the non-chartered cars. And this group's going to produce a lot of speed coming to the line. Carson Scott's going to get himself a nice lap time here, I think. Well, it only moved him up to 17th fastest, but it helped William Brock to move to the top of the leaderboard by about 0.2 over Stephanie Gardner's fastest lap, 2:18.5 to a 2:18.3. Zach Rogers in this group up to 3rd. Jon Cittadino in 9th. And as mentioned, Carson Scott right now in 19th. He's actually dropped to. And that's not actually Jon Cittadino. That's Marie Monobe there in the 93. I thought that was Cittadino. Monobe is 15th right now. Watch out for William Brock. This could be another fast lap for him. Him or Zach Rogers. Let's see. Does anybody jump to the top of the leaderboard from this group this time? No, last lap that time for William Brock was 2:15. 2:16 for Zach Rogers. Let's see if there's any other groups formulating here. Anthony McCrury here with rookies Elijah Gordon and Dougie Shears. McCrury right now 14th, 15th for Gordon, and 13th for Shears. So they're in danger of not moving on to the next round. Nice two-car draft here for Jon Gilbert, Dillon Young. They're 4th and 5th fastest on the charts right now. Not sure if they're going to get around in time to complete another lap, though. As on the bubble spot, as I hit the wrong button there, is Carson Scott in the 38, who's in that big group there with Monobe and Rogers and William Brock. And coming to the stripe, let's see if they're still going to get scored, Gilbert and Young, and no they are not, which means the session has come to a close. And Jon Cittadino just dropped to 12th. Austin Mongold to 11th. Now Dougie Shears out of the top 12, along with McCrury and Gilbert. So the driver that was on the bubble spot was Carson Scott, and he jumped up to 3rd. I think Cittadino's in good shape. Session, I think, is complete. Yes, it is. So the 12 drivers that will move on to the final round of qualifying will include William Brock, Zach Rogers, Carson Scott, Marie Monobe, Stephanie Gardner, Dillon Young, Jon Gilbert, John Andrews, Holden Gluba, Marty Johnson, Austin Mongold, and Jon Cittadino. So for drivers that are go or go homers, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 go or go homers that are moving on to the next round as non-chartered cars, which means that we still do not know who officially is going to be making this race. We do know that officially Dougie Shears, Elijah Gordon, Keith Batson, and James Qualls, they will not be taking part in the main event, but there still are 2 drivers that have to be eliminated, and we won't find out who they're going to be until the next round of qualifying. But looks like Anthony McCrury will be starting off from, I believe that would be about the 12th position he'll be starting from, so pretty good, decent starting spot for that chaser. Kyle Mathews will be starting from 15th, Benjamin Miles from 16th. So we'll have to see where those chasers end up being. The only chaser moving on to the next round of qualifying, ironically enough, Carson Scott, who, if you remember, was actually a pole sitter during the chase already. He ended up having the pole position back at, I want to say, I think it was last week in Indianapolis. Yes, it was, actually. It was last week. So Carson Scott trying to go for his second pole in a row here, trying to show that track position is a key factor into making your way in the next round of qualifying. So anyway, we're going to step aside. They'll put them back out onto the grid, the remaining 12, who will try and battle for the pole position. Kind of ironic enough, too, that I'm counting 1, 2, 3, at least 4 former pole sitters this season. Rogers, Scott, Gluba, and Cittadino. So we'll see if we'll have a first-time pole sitter or a repeat pole sitter in just a moment. So we'll prepare here for our final round of qualifying, find out who will start on the pole, also find out which 7 non-chartered cars will make the race. 2 more drivers will be going home despite making it here to this final round of qualifying. Also worth mentioning, as far as failing to make the race, there was one other driver that was not mentioned back in round 2 that did not make the race. That was Joe Rockingham in the 84. The reason he was not mentioned, he was not on the grid. He did not complete a timed lap in round 2. So, not sure what happened there. If something mechanical, or if they just didn't have time to get him out there, or if they failed inspection. I don't know what the thing is that caused them not to be able to put a lap time down, but as a result, the 84 car will not be in the main event race. As we're looking at Stephanie Gardner, and I just realized I said at least 4 former pole sitters. Let's actually bump that up to 5, because Stephanie Gardner's a former pole sitter this season, back in Infineon. Trying to pick up her second pole of the season. It would be second pole of her career as well. This her rookie season. And Stephanie Gardner now will be on the clock. So as mentioned, only one chaser moving on to this final round of qualifying. Last week's pole sitter Carson Scott. And we will have to see. I mean, with what I've seen here, with the single car runs and drivers getting in the draft of other drivers, the draft is definitely going to play a huge factor into the outcome of this week's race. So I don't think track position is going to be as much of a key factor as it would be at other tracks. I mean, this is a track that runs on super speedway type physics. However, maybe Carson Scott and his team are thinking outside the box. Maybe they want to get the pole to be able to lead the first lap of the race, get themselves a bonus point over everybody else. As the first lap time by Stephanie Gardner, 2:10.517. Going back to my point about getting that bonus point for leading a lap, keep in mind, Benjamin Miles and Grayson Acevedo, because of having wins already in this chase, they're heading into the second round of the chase with 3 extra bonus points. They have 2,003 points, whereas everybody else has only 2,000 points, and so therefore, they've got a little bit of a point advantage. If Carson Scott can qualify on the pole and lead a lap, that cuts it down to a 2-point advantage that Miles and Acevedo have over him. And as we've seen early on in this chase, every point counts. Right now, fastest on track right there, the 39 of Zach Rogers, 2-time pole sitter this season. That team, their qualifying program is just about second to none. Right now, he's hit 216.117, trying to pick up his 3rd pole of the year. His last pole, if memory serves me correctly, was at Darlington Raceway, which, again, was another night track. So apparently they're really good at qualifying at the night tracks. Jon Gilbert's up to 2nd, and Carson Scott is up to 3rd. William Brock, who was the fastest in the second round of qualifying, now will mesh with this group of Zach Rogers and Austin Mongold. And Mongold, top of the leaderboard, 217.432. Now, the two of these guys, while they're battling amongst themselves for the pole position, they're also putting themselves in perfect position of making the main event, because keep in mind, the bottom 2 drivers that are non-chartered cars after this round, they will not be making the official main event of this race. And all 12 drivers have come out on track, and right now the bottom 2 drivers are Holden Gluba and John Andrews that would fail to make the race. Let's find those 2, see where they're at. There's John Andrews, who just now is getting reeled in by Jon Gilbert and Marie Monobe, so maybe he can merge with these 2. And William Brock jumped up, top of the leaderboard, 221.120. So William Brock making a case for himself. He was fastest in round 2, and now he's fastest in round 3. Let's see if having the draft of these drivers will help John Andrews' lap time. He did improve his lap, and it was enough to get above John Cittadino. So now, right now, John Cittadino and Holden Gluba find themselves in the 2 elimination spots, and Cittadino is on pit road. That's not good for him. There's Holden Gluba in the 55 car. Across the line, 207.926. Not good enough to get out of the cellar in 12th place. So right now, it is looking like Cittadino, Holden Gluba are both going to be the 2 that get eliminated. John Andrews will get the final transfer spot into the main event. And there is William Brock in this group. This is where your pole sitter is going to be, I have a feeling. Carson Scott, Austin Mongold, William Brock, and Zach Rogers. Right now, 3 of those 4 are running 1st, 2nd, 3rd in speeds. Carson Scott is 7th fastest right now. Let's see if anybody jumps top of the leaderboard this time. Mongold might have a chance, being tail end of this group. And is he? No, 220.604 was the lap he just ran. Only good enough for 2nd fastest. So William Brock, who last week got eliminated from the chase for the championship, he is going to be starting on the pole position. Fastest in round 2, fastest in round 3.
To your cars.
So he'll start on the pole alongside of Austin Mongold. Row 2 will be Zach Rogers and Marie Monobe. Jon Gilbert and Stephanie Gardner will make up row number 3. Row 4 will be Carson Scott and John Andrews. And row 5 will consist of Marty Johnson, who will get the final transfer spot into the main event, and he'll start alongside of Dillon Young. 2 drivers that will fail to make the race despite making it to this final round of qualifying will include John Cittadino and former winner this season, Holden Gluba. So a tough break there for both of those drivers, both former pole sitters this season as well. So he got eliminated from the chase last week, but this week he shows off some tremendous speed. William Brock will be starting on the pole for this week's race at Armory Digital. Hope you guys enjoyed this race, or this, not this race, but this qualifying session. If you did, be sure to give us a like, subscribe to Come By the Crew today. Check down in the description. You'll see the official starting lineup for this race with William Brock, your pole sitter. We'll see you guys next time as we get ready for chase race number 4, the beginning of round 2 of our chase for the championship here at Armory Digital, as you've been watching a production of the NNSCRA, offline racing at its best.